Hello, everyone, and welcome to this what I call addendum to the Lion King Iceberg video. These are some points that I wanted to specifically address in a different video altogether because the first one was already more than 45 minutes long. So I felt I'll address this one point as well as mention some other things that I would have added to the iceberg. In addition to what was already there. So let's begin. The first thing is that according to the original post, the person who made that said story changes make Simba's pride impossible. I disagree with this because of the following reasons. First one, the time period between Scar attempting to force himself onto Nala and Simba's return is unknown. The second reason is that Scar is a dirty manipulator. The third reason is, it sort of follows from there. Zira has unwavering loyalty to Scar even if he's an incel. The fourth reason is that the lionesses wouldn't necessarily have been made aware of Scar misbehaving with Nala because of the song Shadowland. And last of all, Disney confirmed all three of Zira's cubs are adopted. Now I'll explain all these points. The first thing is that we are not told exactly how long it takes to travel from the Pride Lands to the jungle. It could be like anywhere from a few months to almost a year or 2 years at the most. So in that span of time, anything can happen. In the last reason I mentioned, Zira's cubs are all adopted. Nuka, Vitani, and Kovu are all adopted according to Disney. That's Disney's official stance. They confirmed this in a Twitter post, if I remember correctly. So, given that Zira is extremely loyal to Scar and will stick up for him no matter what, she would have, if she came to know about what Scar tried to do with Nala, she would have been like, oh, okay, so Scar wants to continue his lineage. Let me see if we can adopt some cubs from a pride nearby. And that's what she did. The other thing is that Scar is a dirty manipulator, and this is very explicitly shown in the movie, as well as in the Broadway show. The way he talks to the characters is in such a way that he can get them to be on his side as long as he appears convincing enough and as long as the other side is not shared with the characters. The best example of this is with Simba, when he managed to convince Simba that he is responsible for his father's death somehow, in some convoluted way. So, he could easily convince Zira similarly if Zira came to find out about this and she was deeply disturbed. Another thing is that Zira has this almost unhealthy, psychotic obsession with Scar. She will do anything to be on Scar's good side, to win Scar's favor. And her dream was always to be Scar's queen, and she will do that, and she will do anything for Scar, even give her life for Scar. So even if she came to find out that Scar tried to force himself onto Nala, it wouldn't necessarily bother her that much. The other point is that the lionesses wouldn't necessarily have known about what Scar did to Nala because she sang Shadowland with all of them. And for Nala, what was important was that the kingdom needed to be saved. Not that her dignity was almost compromised. I mean, it's not like he was succeeded in trying to do anything. In the show, it's implied that he is lame, meaning he has a missing leg, so he couldn't do much anyway. And Nala could easily overpower him if he tried to do anything. So it wouldn't have it would have been very traumatic indeed. But the important thing would have been for Nala was that Scar was a bad king, and she needed to take the initiative when he failed. So it's because of all these reasons that I believe that Lion King 2 can take place in the timeline of the Broadway show's universe, exactly the way it plays out in the original movie. And this is my main basis for creating a Broadway adaptation of the Lion King 2 Simba's Pride. It continues directly from the scene where we see Simba and Nala's baby being presented. I interpret that baby as being Kiara herself, not Kopa or anyone else. And that's why if you look at the beginning of Lion King 2 on Broadway, the He Lives in Your Number, you see there are a lot of congruencies between the number of animals at the end of the first show and at the beginning of Lion King 2 Broadway. Because that's how I decided to continue the story. It's a direct continuation from the first show, and this is why I believe that this show could totally take place the way it does in the movie. Now, once that has been put out of the way, let's move on to the other points. Here are a bunch of other interesting points that I happened to that came to my mind while I was recording the first video. The first thing is giant mountains in the background. Now, when I first became a fan of the show, when I first began to study the set design and all that, something that confused me initially was the set of mountains, tiny mountains at the bottom of the stage. I had no idea that those were mountains, but I realized when I was designing the set for my stop motion Lion King musical a few years ago, I realized that without these squiggly things at the back, somehow the stage looked incomplete. It was only after I read the Pride Rock on Broadway book that I realized that those were mountains. And the initial design for the mountains was that they consisted of two giant pieces of I think plastic or steel, and they were much bigger. If you look at the pictures of the set models in Pride Rock on Broadway, you'll see what I mean. And I believe there's a leaked photo as well of one of the when they were trying out the set design, they realized that the original design for the mountains was too big and it took up way too much space backstage. So they made the mountains much smaller and permanently attached to the bottom of the stage. So that's about the giant mountains. Another thing I forgot to mention in the previous video was that I guess this is due to my lack of research on this, but apparently during the Mufasa's lesson scene, there is a dancer who comes up with a pair of rods in his hands. This is when Mufasa is showing Simba the ants. So when the ant hill lady comes by, there's another person who comes with a pair of rods in his hands, and attached to the rods are a flock of guinea fowl, literal guinea fowl, just like you see in the movie. So the white birds at the beginning, turns out that they're not guinea fowl. They're a different species of bird. I assume they're supposed to be cattle egrets or something. Cattle egret is a medium-sized white bird that is found in Africa and also some parts of Asia, I think. And what these birds do is they sit on the backs of bigger herbivorous animals, and they peck off the bugs that might be annoying the herbivore. So yeah, there are actual guinea fowl in the show. When they and another thing is that there is a really cool set of puppets that they utilized in the morning report, besides the mole rat one. These are two tiny butterflies. They're basically made of small pieces of silk attached to long bits of wire, and a dancer comes out and she fiddles with these butterfly puppets, and from a distance it looks like there are a pair of butterflies flying across the plains, and Simba chases these butterflies, and that's when Mufasa notices Simba is not really paying attention in the morning report and decides to engage him a bit. So I came to find out about this from a comment under the original Reddit post, and I also watched some other bootlegs, most notably the 2013 London bootleg. I think that is the best bootleg of the show that I've ever seen. The quality is superb. All the details of the show can be seen clearly. The second best one would probably be the 2002 Hamburg production bootleg. That one is also really good, but the quality sucks. The next point is something else that's kind of wacky. Actually, a bunch of wacky stuff. I'll mention all of this together. When they were doing the I Just Can't Wait to Be King song, one of the original ideas was that there would be these giant, almost I think about 12 to 15 feet tall giraffe heads that popped from the wings. They've played with a bunch of ideas for I Just Can't Wait to Be King. One was that a series of flashing lights that would move all across the stage. sorry, not the stage, all across like the screen, the black screen that came from the like upper part of the stage. And another crazy idea they considered was doing these giant giraffe heads, and they actually constructed these. They had these made, and they tried them out also with the children on seated on the giraffe heads. If you remember in the movie, during this scene, there is a brief part where Simba, like, he hops on a bunch of like giraffes, and he slides down a giraffe's neck, and he lands on the back of a giraffe while singing the line "Standing in the Spotlight." So I believe that was the inspiration for this, and they've housed the giant giraffe heads at the Minskoff Theatre, I believe. If you go there, you can see them. They were discarded because when they tried them out, they quickly realized that this was very cumbersome to house backstage. Additionally, the children they had a lot of difficulty sitting on the heads of the giraffes. Like, they lost their balance, and they used to almost fall off the giraffes. The harnesses were all very tricky to work with. The whole thing was a mess, so they got rid of that. And another thing is that one of the child actors, that is Scott Irby Rainier, I'm not sure how you pronounce his name. The kid who played Simba, young Simba, in the original Broadway cast, he was an awesome dancer. So they felt if they did something like that, they would be able to do justice to his dancing skills. So they got rid of that's another reason why they got rid of the giant giraffe heads, and instead just had him like jump around, dancing around, and taking the spotlight as Simba sings in the song. And that was a really good idea. If you watch like a bootleg of the OBC, you'll notice how much of an amazing dancer Scott is. And the other point is that Pride Rock malfunctioned during the first night of the tryout. Apparently, during Circle of Life, when Pride Rock was supposed to come out, it did not rise fully. Only the top part of the Pride Rock stuck out from under the stage. So imagine the way that looked, just the top part of Pride Rock sticking up from the stage. And but the audience didn't seem to mind that much, and thankfully they got it all fixed later on. Another funny thing was one of the giraffe actors fell during one of the tryouts. There's actually a video of this. During the opening of Circle of Life, there's supposed to be a pair of giraffes that enter the stage as the sun rises and the Ingonyama Nengwenamabala begins. Apparently one of them fell, and a stagehand had to quickly come out and help the man up, and get the man who fell out of the stage, and the other dude came back as the only giraffe for that scene. So that's about the giraffe who fell during the tryout. Another thing is that during the Be Prepared dance break, the hyenas would throw away the helmets that formed the heads of the hyenas for some reason. I thought this was really odd. Thankfully, they didn't do that anymore when they officially premiered the show on Broadway. So yeah, that's about that for the mishaps that happened during the tryouts. Another thing I remember just now is that I believe in the same night when the Pride Rock did not work properly, the same night Mufasa's mask fell off his head during the end of the stampede when he falls from the cliff. That would have been hilarious to see, actually. Not gonna lie. So these are all the mishaps, some of the mishaps that happened during the tryouts. Now, here are some points about the development of the show. One thing that I was surprised to find out was that one of Julie Taymor's original concepts for the Scar costume was that he would be dressed in a tuxedo, like Zazu. She changed her mind about this eventually, and she gave Scar the bamboo frame, which made Scar look more like a real lion than a lion in a tuxedo. That was a good idea. There's actually a rough pencil sketch she made of this version of Scar's costume, and I happened to attempt to rework this for my Lion King live concept. It didn't work there also, and I eventually went with something that is more like the original Broadway costume design. Another thing is that when they were trying out the the masks and the puppets for some of the characters. One of the concepts for the Mufasa costume was he would have a mask that you could move the eyes and the mouth of this mask. I believe they had a similar concept for the Mufasa's ghost as well, but they got rid of this idea of the like moving eyes and mouth because Michael Curry, who designed the puppets, felt that if they had a Mufasa mask with a fully moving face, fully articulated face, that would distract from the human actor. And that is not what they wanted. They wanted something called the double event, where you can see the animal character in the mask and costume and the human being in the actor's face. So in order to preserve that double event thing, they did not go with this idea. Another concept that is like absolutely bonkers is when they were doing the character designs, the costume designs, I believe Juliette Taymor did 3 versions of the characters of Scar, Timon and Zazu. The first one is her original idea was what eventually ended up on stage. The second idea was something that is like for like Zazu and Timon specifically, it was more like full size animal costumes, like the like wacky concept art that I showed you in the first video. The last one was in the case of Scar, elaborate makeup and a wig. Now they did this for showing the Disney executives the potential ways in which stage adaptation of Lion King stage adaptation of Lion King would look, and which they felt would be best for doing the show. By God's grace, the execs said the initial concept with like the mask and the like actor you can see at the same time, that double event concept was the best idea. As for like the last thing I mentioned, which is Scar had a wig and elaborate makeup. There's actually a photo of Scar's spiky wig in the Pride Rock on Broadway book. It's a large clump of like black hair. It looks a lot like Pumbaa's wig. And the actor would have worn heavy makeup that looked like a lion's face and this wig instead of a lion mask on top of his head. Thankfully, they didn't go this route, and they instead went with like the remote control mask that sat on the actor's head. One more point I'd like to add with regards to like the set design of the show is in the previous video I mentioned about the wedding cake Pride Rock, the giant globe on which Rafiki would have sat at the beginning of the show, and in this one I mentioned the giant mountains versus the smaller mountains. One of the when they were thinking about doing the final fight scene, there were a lot of ideas that had to be like tossed around. One of them was they actually considered setting fire around Pride Rock, real fire, and like a wall of rain at the end of everything to like make everything look as realistic as possible. Eventually they decided that 1, this is too dangerous, and 2, it's too expensive. They decided to go for like simple lighting changes. For instance, when Scar goes, "I killed Mufasa," the light quickly flashes to look like lightning, and then the whole cyclorama, which is the big white sheet at the back, turns red to represent the like lighting striking the earth and the fire starting. So that was a much safer and less expensive compromise. Another idea was that for like Julie originally wanted Scar and Simba to fight on top of the giant ribcage from the Elephant Graveyard set piece. When they realized that this set piece was way too heavy to put back on the turntable on which Pride Rock sits. By the way, this ribcage as well as Pride Rock, they come out from under the stage. Both of them come out from under the stage on this turntable. So when they realized that both of these, it would be way too heavy to switch both of these enormous set pieces out, they figured out that they'll just make a giant metal frame Pride Rock that would slide from the wings, and Simba and Scar could do battle on top of that. Additionally, in order to convey a sense of like extreme chaos, Instead of using like the actual Pride Rock set piece or this giant metal cliff, what they did was they made a cloth Pride Rock. The cloth Pride Rock is supported by about 5 or 6 dancers, and they run around the stage with this cloth, and at different points, the front of the cloth or the back of the cloth, they'll show different characters fighting. Sometimes they'll show the lionesses fighting the hyenas. Sometimes they'll show Simba fighting the hyenas, Simba and Nala fighting the hyenas. Then they'll show like Rafiki fighting a hyena who's chasing Zazu. Then they'll show Scar and Simba fighting. They also have like shadow puppets that show lionesses and hyenas fighting. Originally, the big fight between Scar and Simba was supposed to be shown with shadow puppets. They actually designed a shadow puppet Simba for this, but they scrapped this. And something fun that I came to realize was that the lion face in the logo of the Broadway show is supposed to be Simba. Do you know how I learned this? When I saw a photo of the shadow puppet for Simba, I noticed that it looks exactly like the lion face on the logo of the Broadway show. Additionally, the design of Simba's mask looks very similar to both of these, the shadow puppet as well as the logo. That's how I was able to realize that the lion whose face features in the logo of the Broadway show is Simba. So that's about the some of the like development of the like depiction of some of the scenes in the story. I believe we're at the last point now. The last thing is that the Grasslands chant is supposed to be a series of wide shots leading up to close-up shots of Mufasa and Simba. Now, the set design of Lion King is heavily inspired by film shot composition. For instance, the whole Circle of Life scene is supposed to be like fade cuts to different parts of the Pride Lands when different animals enter the scene. The first part, when the giraffe and the cheetah comes in, that's like one shot. Then when the zebras come in, that's another shot. Then when the gazelles come in, that's another shot. And when Pride Rock eventually spins out, it's supposed to be like a camera panning across the horizon, and Pride Rock is slowly like climbing up from the horizon. That's the idea, and the same thing is displayed all throughout the show. For instance, when they want to do like a close-up shot of like Mufasa and Zazu talking, they'll bring the like lion claw mark curtains down, so they're at the bottom of the stage in the front, and it'll look like a close-up shot. Whereas for like a wide shot, they'll have the back end of the stage raised a little. This is called raking. They'll raise it up a bit so you can see all the characters clearly at the back. And and with the Grasslands chant, essentially what the idea was that it would start with a wide shot of the grass. Like this is represented by just the grass dancers being on the stage. Then they'll move in a little closer onto the landscape. The grassland dancers, they'll like form the side of a hill or a valley with the way they like arrange themselves on the stage. And then two dancers carrying like small puppets of Mufasa and Simba, they'll run across the stage, and it will look like a far shot of Mufasa and Simba running across the grass. And finally, we end up at like a very close-up shot of the Mufasa and Simba human actors entering the scene. And then they'll climb up Pride Rock, and Mufasa will begin teaching his son about being a good king. So that's those are like the some interesting facts about the way the set is designed. And with that, we come to the end of this Lion King Iceberg Addendum. I hope you enjoyed this video. And I'll see you in the next video, where I talk about, maybe I'll talk about the Lion King holiday edition that I came up with, or some other video, some other similar Lion King video. Bye.